Title: Tyler, you're on your own. My mom's voice was cold as she tossed my belongings out the door. Tyler, you're on your own now. Fine. I'll remember this. I whispered those words to myself as I shut the door behind me. 6 months later, they were broke. And I wasn't answering their calls. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. This is going to be a long one, so buckle up. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. About 2 years ago, my family kicked me out because I refused to follow their perfect life plan. Now that I've built a successful business, they suddenly remember I exist, and they want my help. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about it. How I handled it. I figured I'd share my story and see what you all think. I'm Tyler, and my life took a complete nosedive when I turned 20. I was always the odd one out in my family, not because I was reckless or rebellious, but simply because I refused to follow the blueprint they had laid out for me. My parents had my entire future planned before I even had a chance to dream for myself. My dad, Ryan, climbed the corporate ladder to become a regional manager at a pharmaceutical company, while my mom, Linda, built a career as a school administrator. They both started with nothing and hustled their way up, determined to give us a life better than theirs. We weren't rolling in money, but we lived in a nice neighborhood with good schools, and their expectations were crystal clear. Ace your classes. Get into a top college. Land a respectable job. Then there was my older brother Caleb, the family's pride and joy. The guy never missed a step. Straight A's, a scholarship to a solid state university, married his college sweetheart Ashley right after graduation, and slid effortlessly into a well-paying insurance job. If life had a rulebook, he followed it to the letter. Caleb was the perfect son, following the perfect plan, checking every box on the successful life checklist. Meanwhile, I was on a completely different path. I had been obsessed with fitness and nutrition since I was 16. What started as a simple goal to get in shape quickly turned into a full-blown passion. By my senior year, I wasn't just working out, I was helping others do the same. I designed workout routines, created meal plans, and even made decent money as a personal trainer at a local gym while finishing high school. But my parents? They hated it. Mom had me on a bi-weekly schedule for her. You'll never get anywhere without a degree. Lectures. Dad took it even further. He constantly asked if I seriously believed this fitness phase could support me long-term. He'd shove article after article in my face about how the industry was oversaturated, how personal trainers barely made enough to survive. At one point, he even made a full-on PowerPoint presentation comparing salaries of college graduates versus those without degrees. I tried to reason with them. It wasn't like I was against college, I just didn't want to rush into it when I had no clue what I actually wanted to study. If my business failed? Fine, I'd reconsider. But right now, I wanted to bet on myself. I had about 10 regular clients, each paying me $40 to $50 per session, not bad money for a 19-year-old. But more than that, I was gaining real-world business experience. I was learning how to market myself, manage clients, and handle finances, things that actually mattered. My parents didn't care. Every conversation spiraled into an argument. Every family dinner turned into a lecture about how I was throwing my future away. The negativity became unbearable, and I started spending as much time as possible outside just to avoid it. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The tension had been building for months, but I never thought they'd actually go through with it. Meanwhile, Caleb and Ashley were struggling. On paper, they were the picture of success, a combined income of around $120,000, a new house in a nice neighborhood, 2 nearly brand-new cars in the driveway. But behind the scenes, they were drowning in debt. They had bought into a lifestyle they couldn't really afford. Ashley had her heart set on living in a specific school district, even though they didn't even have kids yet. On top of that, they both leased brand-new cars, a BMW for Caleb and some luxury SUV for her, with payments that devoured a massive chunk of their income. But Ashley's spending didn't stop there. She was always redecorating, buying designer clothes, or splurging on things they didn't really need. At first, they only borrowed money from my parents for emergencies, unexpected repairs, medical bills, stuff like that. But soon, it became routine. My dad would grumble about it, saying they needed to be more responsible, but the moment they asked for another check, he'd cave. Family helps family, after all. Then came that day in late September, about 4 months after I graduated high school. I had just gotten home from a shift at the gym when I walked into my room, and found my mom rifling through my things. "What are you doing?" I asked. She barely glanced up. We need to talk. Now. Your father's waiting in the living room. Then she turned and walked out, expecting me to follow. I followed my mom into the living room, where my dad and Caleb were already waiting. Ashley, unsurprisingly, was nowhere to be seen, probably out shopping or doing whatever it was she did all day. Mom cleared her throat, bracing herself before delivering the news. Tyler, things have been really tough for your brother and Ashley. They need some stability. The bank is threatening foreclosure, and they need a place to stay for a while. I blinked. What? She barely hesitated. You'll be fine. You're 20, you can find a place. You're making your own money at that gym, right? For a second, I was too stunned to even speak. Then I finally managed. But this is my room. I live here. Caleb, arms crossed, scoffed like I was being ridiculous. You don't contribute anything, Tyler. You don't pay rent. I'm struggling, and I actually have a family to take care of. I almost laughed in his face. A family? It was just him and Ashley, who didn't even work, and they were both constantly blowing money on things they didn't need. Mom shot me a sharp look. Tyler, stop. Being selfish, you're not our priority right now, she said coldly. Then, without warning, she grabbed my gym bag and hurled it toward the door. Start packing, she added. I glanced at Dad, hoping he might intervene, but instead, he just nodded in agreement with Mom. You've been talking about wanting independence for months, he said. Well, here's your chance to prove you can handle it on your own. I turned back to them, hurt. So that's it? You're just kicking me out for him? I asked. We're not kicking you out, Mom replied, though her actions told a different story as she began tossing my things onto the pile by the door. We're just prioritizing our resources. Caleb needs us more right now. I could have protested, could have begged for their support, but something inside me snapped. Without a word, I stood up, grabbed what I could carry, and walked out. No tears, no goodbyes, just gathered my essentials and left. If they were going to treat me like I didn't matter, I'd return the favor. For a while, I crashed at my friend's place. I ended up staying at Lucas's place for a while. He was cool about it, letting me crash on his couch for almost 2 months. I picked up extra shifts at the gym and started hustling to land more personal training clients. The first few months were tough. There were times I lived off ramen and had to count pennies just to put gas in my old, beat-up Honda Civic. During this time, I didn't hear a single word from my family. No calls, no texts, absolutely nothing. For 8 months, I was completely out of their radar. Christmas passed without a word, and even my 21st birthday came and went without a single message. It felt like I'd been erased from their lives. While they were all pretending to be this perfect family in their suburban bubble, I was out there building something real. I threw myself into my fitness business, and my Instagram started to take off. I went from 200 followers to over 10,000 in just 6 months. People appreciated my no-nonsense approach and the real results I was getting with regular folks. I saved up as much as I could, and eventually, I had enough to rent a small studio space with 2 other trainers. We split the rent. I transformed a basic space into an industrial-style gym, nothing fancy, just the essentials. Squat racks, benches, dumbbells, and a few cardio machines. We kept it simple, focusing solely on serious training. We called it Base Camp Fitness. Then, I started creating customized workout plans for various goals, fat loss, muscle gain, sports performance, and began selling them online through my growing social media presence. They were affordable, around $29.99 for a 12-week program, but they gained steady traction. I went ahead and got certified in sports nutrition, which opened the door to a whole new wave of clients. Athletes from a nearby college started coming to me for tailored meal plans, and a local CrossFit gym brought me on to handle their nutrition program. A past client who competed in bodybuilding also referred me to his circle of friends. My online following exploded, growing to around 50,000, and supplement brands began reaching out to collaborate. By the 6th month, the demand had grown so much that I had to bring another trainer on board. By the 6th month, I had launched my own meal plan line, offering prepackaged meals that people could order weekly. They were a hit, especially with busy professionals who needed something easy and healthy. Then, out of nowhere, a local fitness chain with 3 locations, struggling to keep its doors open, came to my attention. The owner was ready to retire and offered me a 30% stake in the business. The price was steep enough to wipe out my savings, but it was still a bargain when considering the equipment and loyal client base. I took the leap and bought in. We rebranded the gyms, introduced my training methods, and brought on a team of driven, young trainers. Within 3 months, membership numbers soared by 40%. I was now part owner of a legit fitness brand with 3 locations. And of course, that's when my parents decided to reach out. It started with an unexpected text from my mom. "Hey honey, how have you been?" I had to look at my phone twice to make sure I wasn't imagining it. I couldn't believe it. This was the same woman who had tossed my gym bag out like I was some kind of deadbeat. I ignored the text. A few days later, another one came. "Tyler, it's been a while. We miss you. Why don't you come over for dinner?" Miss me? That was rich. I didn't exactly feel missed when I was packing my life into a gym bag and walking out. I ignored that one too. Then the calls started. After the 5th one in one day, my curiosity finally got the best of me, and I answered. "Hello?" Mom's voice was way too cheerful. "Oh, Tyler, it's so good to hear your voice. We were just talking about you," I flatly responded. "Uh-huh. Well, we just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Your father and I saw that billboard with your picture on it near the mall for that new fitness center you're working at. Personal training there?" I couldn't help but smirk. "Nah, I own part of it." Her shock was priceless. "You own part of it?" "Yep, got 3 locations now. Opening a 4th next month." There was a long pause before Mom spoke again. "Well, that's great, Tyler. We always knew you had it in you." "Really?" "Because last I checked, you thought I was throwing my life away. Tyler, that's all behind us. Back then, we thought we were helping you make better choices. But we miss you." "Oh, now you miss me? Is that because I'm actually doing well now?" "Of course not," she replied a little too quickly. "But since you mentioned it, we've heard things have been going well for you." So they'd finally heard that I wasn't just scraping by, but actually thriving. And now they wanted to be part of my life again. I decided to go along with it. "That's interesting," I said. "So why don't I swing by? Is there even room for me? I mean, Caleb and Ashley are still living there, right?" There was silence on the other end. Then Mom nervously replied, "About that." And then Dad picked up the phone. "Tyler, it's Dad." "I know," I said, my tone cold. He cleared his throat before speaking again. "Son, we owe you an apology. The way we treated you." A month later, another long pause. "Well, that's great, Tyler. We always knew you had potential." "Did you?" "Because last I checked, you thought I was throwing my life away." "Tyler, that's all in the past. At the time, we thought we were helping you make better choices. But we miss you." "Oh, now you miss me? Is this about the fact that I'm finally doing well?" "Of course not," she responded a little too quickly. "But since you mentioned it, we did hear things have been going really well for you." There it was. They'd finally caught wind that I wasn't just getting by, but actually thriving. And now they wanted to be part of my life again. I decided to play along. "That's interesting," I said. "So why don't I swing by? Is there even room for me? I mean, Caleb and Ashley are still living there, right?" Silence. Then Mom nervously replied, "About that." Finally, Dad picked up the phone. "Tyler, it's Dad." "I know," I said coldly. He cleared his throat. "Look, son, we owe you an apology. The way we treated you. It wasn't right," he muttered. "We should have handled things differently." "You think?" I responded, my voice cool. "Yes," he said with a sigh. "I'm man enough to admit when I've made a mistake. And we definitely made a mistake with you, Tyler." The timing couldn't have been more interesting. 8 months of silence, and now you suddenly realize your mistake? What's changed, Dad? He hesitated, and in that pause, I already knew the answer. "Things have been rough lately," he admitted. "Caleb and Ashley's finances have gotten worse. Your mom and I have been helping them out, but money's been tight." I already had a hunch, but I pressed on. "And what does that have to do with me?" Another long silence before Mom's voice piped in. "Well, we figured since you're doing well with your business, maybe you could pitch in a little. Family helps family, you know? Bingo." I couldn't help but whistle low in disbelief. "So let me get this straight. You kicked me out. To support them? Because I wasn't a priority anymore, but now that I had money, suddenly I mattered." Dad quickly chimed in. "That's not fair, Tyler. We're still your parents." "Really?" I shot back. "Were you still my parents when you let Caleb take my room? Were you still my parents when Mom threw my things out? Were you still my parents when you didn't check on me for 8 months? Not on Christmas, not on my birthday, not when I was trying to figure out where to live. There was nothing but silence. They didn't have an answer. Mom spoke up again, her voice trying to sound gentle. Tyler, we made mistakes, okay? But we love you. And right now, we really need your help. Your dad's company is going through layoffs, and he's had his hours cut. We've already taken out a second mortgage to help Caleb after they lost their house. Lost their house? I repeated, shocked. Yes, she said quietly. About 2 months ago. They couldn't make the payments anymore, even with our help. Ashley's spending got out of control, and Caleb's company froze raises and bonuses this year. They had no choice but to move in with us. I leaned back in my office chair, a grin creeping up. You need my help? That's rich. 8 months ago, you made it clear that I wasn't your priority. You told me that straight to my face, right before tossing my stuff out. We were wrong, Dad said, his tone unexpectedly subdued. We thought Caleb was the one with it all together. The responsible one. But it turns out appearances can be deceiving. I finished for him. It turns out my little fitness passion was actually a solid career. It turns out college isn't the only way to succeed. He let out a sigh. Yes, you've proved us wrong. And I'm willing to admit it. So now what? I asked. You want me to bail you out? Pay off the second mortgage? Buy Caleb and Ashley a new house so they can keep? Move out of yours? No, nothing like that. Mom interrupted quickly. We were just hoping for a small loan to help us catch up on some bills. We're behind on the mortgage payments, and with your dad's hours being cut back. A loan? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. And how exactly would you pay me back when you're already struggling to make ends meet? Silence fell over the conversation. It lasted so long, I almost wondered if they'd hung up. Finally, Dad spoke. We're not in a position to pay it back right now, he admitted, his voice low. But if things improve. I interrupted. If things improve. And with the way things have been going, that's a pretty big if, don't you think? Tyler, please, Mom said, her voice pleading. We wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate. I'll think about it, I said, keeping my tone neutral, but making it clear I wasn't committing. But I'm not promising anything. I hung up the phone without waiting for them to say anything else. Sitting back in my chair, I just stared at the screen, letting everything sink in. Part of me still wanted to help. They were my parents, after all. Despite everything, there was still a part of me, the part that remembered crashing on Lucas's couch and surviving on ramen for days, that wanted them to feel the same struggle I did. I thought I'd made myself clear on the phone, but a week later they showed up at my condo. I'm not sure how they got my address, probably from someone we both knew, but there they were, Mom, Dad, Caleb, and Ashley, standing outside when I got home from work. Mom had a hopeful look on her face. Dad seemed desperate. Caleb was still wearing that smug expression, even though he was the one in financial trouble, and Ashley was looking at me like she had been wronged. I took my time answering the door, then leaned against the frame. Well, a family reunion. What's the plan? You think bringing everyone here is going to make me feel bad? Caleb stepped up and tried to keep it calm. Listen, man, we're not here to fight. We just need a little help to get back on track. Oh, now you need help? I shot back. Last time we spoke, you were calling me a leech for living in my room at our parents' house, I said, staring at Caleb. He actually looked a bit uncomfortable. I didn't kick you out. Mom and Dad made that decision. Oh, I know, I replied. They made it clear you were more important, and now here you are, all lined up outside my door with your hands out. Ashley scoffed. God, you're such a drama queen. It's not like you were homeless or anything. I looked her over, taking in her designer purse, probably fake at this point, and her carefully maintained appearance. Even in financial trouble, she was still trying to look like she had it all together. Actually, Ashley, I was pretty much homeless for a while. Sleeping on a friend's couch isn't exactly stable housing. But I guess you wouldn't know much about real struggle, would you? You've always had someone to bail you out. Dad jumped in. Tyler, let's just get to the point. We're in serious trouble. Mom nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage payments. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Mom continued. We've been helping Caleb and Ashley ever since they lost their house, and it's stretched us too thin. Your dad's company cut his hours, and my school district is talking about layoffs. I raised an eyebrow and turned to Caleb and Ashley. And what about you two? I asked, looking directly at them. Are you contributing anything to the household, or are you just freeloading? Caleb shifted uncomfortably. I'm looking for work. Had some interviews last week, and I'm starting my own small business, he said, as though that would be enough. Ashley quickly added, I'm starting an online boutique selling handcrafted jewelry. I almost burst out laughing. Another one of their ventures that would probably cost more than it would ever bring in. I didn't even know where to start with how ridiculous it sounded. So let me get this straight, I said, turning back to my parents. You threw me out to make room for Caleb and Ashley, who lost their house anyway. Now they're living with you, not contributing anything, and you're about to lose yours too, and you want me to what? Save you all? I asked, incredulity clear in my voice. Mom nodded urgently. We just need enough to catch up on the mortgage and a little extra to keep things going until your dad's hours get back to normal and Caleb finds a job. How much are we talking about? I inquired, already bracing for the answer. Dad paused before responding. About $30,000. That would cover the mortgage arrears and give us some breathing room. I feigned deep thought, tapping my fingers against the doorframe. Wow, that sounds pretty serious. Mom's expression softened. It really is, Tyler. We could lose everything. I gave a nonchalant shrug. Yeah, I understand. Anyway, I hope things work out for you. Dad's expression turned dark. Is that all you have to say after everything we've done for you? Raising you, giving you a roof over your head for 20 years? I shot back without missing a beat. You did that because you had to. That's called being a parent. It's not a favor, and it's not something I owe you later on. Ashley stepped forward, arms crossed, her tone harsh. You're so ungrateful. You've got more than enough money now, and you're really just going to watch your family struggle? I stared her down, not backing down for a second. And yet here you are, begging for money because you and your husband never learned how to manage your finances. I left with nothing and built something from scratch, while you bought a house you couldn't afford, leased cars you couldn't pay for, and now you're drowning in debt. And you're calling me ungrateful? Ashley took a step back, as if my words had caught her off guard. Caleb tried again with the family angle. Come on, Tyler. We're family. Family helps each other out when times are tough. I chuckled, shaking my head. Funny how you only remember family when you need something. Where was all that we're in this together nonsense when Mom threw my stuff out? Where was the family support then? Caleb was silent. Mom was crying, her voice breaking. Tyler, please, just a little help. We don't know where else to turn. I took a step forward, my patience gone. How many times do I have to say this? I don't care about your problems. You made it crystal clear that I didn't matter to you, so guess what? You're not important to me anymore. Before they could say another word, I turned around, walked back inside, and slammed the door behind me. I thought that would be the end of it, but karma had different plans. About 2 months later, I was at our flagship gym location doing a photo shoot when, to my surprise, my brother Caleb walked in. He looked like a mess, unshaven, dark bags under his eyes, wearing clothes that clearly hadn't seen a washing machine in days. Can we talk? He mumbled, glancing nervously at the photographer and models. I led Caleb to my office. The difference between us was glaring. There I was, dressed in tailored clothes, sitting behind a desk with my name on it, and Caleb, looking like he'd been living on the streets. Caleb had been living out of his car for the past 3 weeks. Ashley left. He muttered, his gaze fixed on the floor. Took all the savings we had left, maxed out our credit cards, and disappeared. Said she wasn't going to live like this anymore. I stayed quiet, letting him get it out. She's been seeing her old boss behind my back. It's been going on for over a year. She only stuck around for the house, for the life we had. But when it all fell apart, his voice trailed off. Mom and Dad couldn't keep up with their mortgage after helping us. The bank foreclosed last month. He paused for a moment, then continued. They're staying with Mom's sister now. It's cramped and tense there. I could already guess the answer, but I asked anyway. Where are you staying now? Car, mostly, he replied, avoiding eye contact. Sometimes a shelter when it gets too cold. I lost my job too, company downsized, and I was one of the first to go. I leaned back in my chair, taking in the sight of my older brother, who had once been so well put together but was now a mess. His clothes were wrinkled, unwashed and stained. His usual confidence was gone. He looked like someone who'd been through the ringer. "So what do you want from me, Caleb?" I asked, looking at him coldly. He finally met my gaze, his eyes filled with exhaustion. "I'm not asking for money. I know I don't deserve it. I need a job. Any job. I'll clean the bathrooms, mop the floors, anything. I just need a way to get back on my feet." I sat there, staring at him for a long time. Part of me wanted to turn him away, to let him feel the struggle I had gone through. But then I saw something I wasn't expecting: humility. Genuine humility. The kind I had never seen in him before. "Why should I help you?" I asked, my voice still cold. "You didn't exactly help me when I needed it." He nodded, accepting the hit. "I know. I was wrong. I see that now. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I just need a chance. I'll do whatever it takes." I studied him, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to just walk away and leave him to figure it out. But another part of me saw how desperate he was, how far he'd fallen. I didn't want him to go through what I did, but I also didn't want to just give him a handout. Finally I spoke. "All right. I'll give you a shot. But don't think it's going to be easy. You're going to work hard, and you're going to prove that you deserve this. You're not getting any free rides. Brother, I've spent a lot of time thinking about everything, especially during those late-night hours sitting in my car in Walmart parking lots at 3 a.m. I was so wrapped up in trying to look successful and in what others thought of me that I lost sight of what truly matters: family. Real family, not the shallow relationship I had with Ashley. She left the moment things got hard. But you? Despite everything we put you through, you built something real, something that actually helps people. You know what the worst part is? You were right all along. Mom and Dad were wrong about you, and so was I. You found your passion and made it work, while I followed their perfect plan, and look where I am now." I stood up, walked over to the window, and looked down at the gym floor, where people were changing their lives, one rep at a time. Finally I spoke. "I'll give you a job," I said. "But not because you're my brother. You'll start at minimum wage as a maintenance worker. You're going to work harder than you've ever worked before. You'll learn from everyone, including the trainers who've been with me from the start. If you complain even once, you're out." The look of relief on his face was almost painful to witness. "Thank you, Tyler. I won't let you down," he said. I took a breath and added, "One more thing, there's no apartment for you right away. There's a small storage room in the back, and a shower in the staff bathroom. You'll sleep on a cot there until you can save up for a deposit. And you'll take our financial literacy classes." He nodded fast, like a man who'd just been thrown a lifeline. "And Caleb, don't get it twisted. This isn't me forgiving you. It's me giving you the chance to earn some respect back. Don't waste it." As for Mom and Dad, I shot them a message the next day. "Heard about the house. Caleb's working for me now. If you want to talk, you know where to find me. This time, I expect a real apology. You've got 2 days." Later, they sat across from me in the same office, looking just as defeated as Caleb had. Dad looked like he'd aged a decade, and Mom couldn't stop wiping her tears. "We were wrong, Tyler," Dad murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "So terribly wrong about everything. We thought we knew what was best." Mom dabbed at her eyes. "But we didn't know anything." I sat there, staring at them, thinking back to the day they kicked me out, the months of struggle, the nights I went to bed hungry while they supported Caleb and Ashley's extravagant lifestyle. "Where are you staying?" I asked. "Your Aunt Susan's garage," Dad replied, the shame in his voice palpable. "She turned it into a small apartment years ago. It's not ideal, but it's something." "And what's your plan?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. They exchanged a glance before looking back at me. "We're still figuring that out," Dad confessed. "I've been applying for jobs, but at my age, it's not easy. Your mom has an interview next week. They told me Mom had a week of work lined up at a daycare center." I nodded, taking it all in. They weren't just looking for another handout, at least they were trying. "I'm not giving you any money," I said, breaking the silence. "But I can offer Dad a job in our corporate office, handling paperwork and accounting. As for Mom, we need someone to manage our front desk staff across locations." They looked at each other, then turned back to me. "We'll take it," Dad said without hesitation. "One condition," I added. "You both go to therapy, separately and together. I'll cover the costs. You need to understand why you were willing to discard one son to save the other. Mom started crying harder, but Dad simply nodded. That's fair. More than fair. I wasn't finished. And one more thing, I said. I'm not doing this because I've forgiven you. I'm doing it because, unlike you, I don't turn my back on family when they need help, even when they don't deserve it. Dad flinched at my words, but stayed silent. We understand. Tyler, thank you. We don't deserve your help, but we're truly grateful. 4 months later, Caleb had turned into an unexpectedly good employee. He worked harder than anyone else, never complained, and had earned the respect of the team through his relentless effort. He was now living in a simple studio apartment, nothing luxurious, but it was his, paid for with money he earned himself. He even took charge of our weekly financial literacy workshops, using his own life as a cautionary tale. Mom and Dad were adjusting to their new roles. They weren't thriving, but they were slowly finding their footing. Dad's accounting background had been surprisingly useful for our expansion, and Mom's knack for organization had greatly improved our front desk operations. The therapy seemed to be helping as well. In their most recent session, Mom admitted something she'd never said before. She had always favored Caleb because he reminded her of her father, while I reminded her of her brother, she had said. You've always been the family disappointment. Hearing that stung, but at least it was the truth. As for me, things are better than ever. We just opened our 6th location last month, and we've signed a deal with a major supplement company to create our own branded line. My social media following has hit 1 million across platforms, and I've got a book deal in the works about fitness, nutrition, and mental resilience. Sometimes, when I'm locking up the gym late at night, I take a moment to look at everything I've built and reflect on how close I came to giving up on myself. How easy it would have been to just follow the path my parents set for me: college, corporate job, the daily grind, living for the weekends. Instead, I trusted my instincts, pushed through the challenges, and created something real. Do I regret cutting my family off when they first came asking for money? Not in the slightest. They needed to hit rock bottom too. They needed to face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let someone experience the fallout of their choices. But I don't regret giving them a second chance, on my terms. There's something rewarding about being the bigger person, about showing them that their values were always misguided. Success isn't about the right degree, the right neighborhood, or the right car. It's about building something real, something that truly matters. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh at first? Should I have just given them money when they first asked? Or did they need to hit rock bottom to realize the damage they caused? Honestly, after everything they put me through, I think karma did what it does best. Edit *, wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and comments. To answer some of the most common questions, yes, this is all true. I didn't exaggerate anything. Ashley is still missing in action. Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents. Caleb's been sober for almost 5 months now and recently earned a promotion to assistant manager at one of our newer locations. As for Dad, his health is improving. The stress took a toll on his heart, but he's now on medication and sticking to the doctor's advice. Mom and I still have our ups and downs, but therapy is helping. She finally admitted that she always favored Caleb because he reminded her of her father. I really appreciate all the support. It feels good to share this after everything that's happened.